The carpenter's hands froze mid-motion, fingers tightening around the rail as if the wood itself had spoken to him. The color drained from his face. "These steps were cut," he said quietly. "Not worn. Cut. Someone wanted them to give way." I didn't gasp. I didn't retreat. Instead, something inside me clicked into place, like the final piece of a lock sealing shut. My phone vibrated in my palm. A message from my son. "Mom, come downstairs now." That was the moment everything aligned. The urgency disguised as concern, the timing too precise, the lies stacked so neatly they almost looked like care. I asked the carpenter to step aside. I smoothed my shirt, steadied my breath, and prepared to speak. Because the man who thought he had replaced me was about to learn who had truly been standing in his place all along. I had already fallen once, just not down the stairs. The end of my marriage didn't arrive with shouting or slammed doors. It arrived quietly, with him coming home earlier than usual and looking at me like I was an inconvenience. With my son repeating phrases no child invents on his own. "Dad says you're always tired. Dad says you don't listen." I remembered the beginning, when my husband built things with his hands, fixed what broke, made safety feel permanent. I trusted that feeling. I trusted him. That was my mistake. Trust, I learned, is a currency some men spend freely when they believe no one is checking the balance. The other woman appeared gradually, or maybe she'd been there longer than I knew. First a coworker, then a helpful presence, then a shadow that moved comfortably through my home. Shoes by the door that weren't mine, a perfume that lingered in rooms I had just cleaned. I noticed patterns before I found proof. Accounts shifting, passwords changing, conversations that once included me suddenly labeled private. When I finally saw the message, "She doesn't suspect a thing," I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I memorized it. I took screenshots. I backed everything up twice. Heartbreak is loud. Strategy is silent. I didn't confront him. I observed. I learned his tells. How quickly he spoke when he lied. How much he over-explained what he wanted hidden. I realized he was moving assets, rehearsing grief, planting doubts in our son's mind like seeds he expected to harvest later. That was the moment I stopped being his wife and became his mirror. I called a lawyer before I called a friend. I documented everything. I let him believe he was winning. Men like him mistake silence for weakness. When he filed for divorce, I acted surprised. When he asked for full custody, I acted worn down. When he suggested I move upstairs for my comfort, I smiled. The stairs were his final shortcut. A clean fall, an accident, a grieving husband who had tried to warn her. Except he underestimated two things, my patience and my timing. The carpenter's words echoed as I descended carefully, one hand against the wall. At the bottom stood my son, pale, shaken, his eyes darting behind me. Behind him were my husband and her. She was already in my place, wearing my robe, standing where I used to stand. I stopped on the last safe step. "I know," I said calmly before anyone could speak. My husband frowned. "Know what?" I looked at my son first. He was just a child trapped between stories written by adults who loved winning more than truth. "I know you texted because you were scared," I told him softly. "Not for me, for yourself." My husband stepped forward. "This isn't the time." "No," I said evenly. "This is exactly the time." I turned to the staircase, to him, to her. "You cut the steps, you moved the money, you rehearsed the grief, you told our son I was unstable so he'd believe the fall." Silence settled, heavy and earned. His mouth opened, then closed. She stepped back. I took out my phone and pressed play. His voice filled the space. Confident, amused, her laughter threaded through it. Men like him love hearing themselves sound clever. "Everything has already been submitted," I continued, "to my lawyer, to the court, to your employer. Safety violations, fraud, attempted harm." I looked at my son again. "You don't have to choose," I said, "but now you get the truth." Panic finally cracked my husband's composure. He reached for me. "We can fix this." I laughed once, quiet and controlled. "You should have fixed the stairs properly." The police came. The carpenter testified. The story collapsed under its own weight. Custody shifted. Assets froze. The woman disappeared the same way she arrived. quietly once the narrative no longer served her. Weeks later, I walked those stairs again, rebuilt stronger than before. Every step measured, every cut corrected. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clean. Betrayal teaches you who someone is. Revenge teaches them who you are. I didn't push him down the stairs. I let him fall through his own plans. And I took my place back, not as his wife, not as a victim, but as the woman who saw the cut and chose to stand anyway.